Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Turning Point. This week we focus on women's cricket, the achievement of Mithali Raj's girls down under who played a test match in Australia after 16 long years. And this, for the first time, they played a night test. What's even bigger is that they managed to draw the match. Some stellar performances coming from their batters as well as their bowlers. Smriti Mandhana was adjudged the player of the match for her 127 runs. To talk about the impact of the series, I am joined by the former General Manager of Cricket Operations of BCCI, Sabah Karim, who looked after these women cricketers during his tenure in the BCCI. Also joining me is Sharda Ugra, Senior Sports Journalist. Thank you very much, Sabah and Sharda, for joining me on the podcast. But before I dive into the discussion with them, let's listen in to Captain Mithali Raj on what she feels has been the impact of this test match, how big it is for her team.
Well, against the best side, definitely yes. Against the Australians, I think it is one of the best team performance in this format. Though I think we've played, having 8 debutants in 2014, winning a test in England against England team who just won the Ashes. That was also very close. But yes, as I said, on the Australian soil playing against them, the girls really put up a great show.
Sabah, 2017, they came up with a splendid result. They reached the World Cup finals. 2020 was another big moment, I would say a watershed moment in women's cricket in India and world over. Would you say that 2020 was, in a way, the turning point?
Well, I think it all started from 2017 World Cup. You know, Rika, many people maybe are not aware of this, that 2006 onwards, women cricket in India came to the fold of BCCI. So post 2006 is the time when many more domestic tournaments were organized by BCCI, and since then the growth has been phenomenal, and it all bore fruit for us when in 2017 World Cup India did so well, because we had a very professional staff, and the girls were getting a lot of training, and there were some coaching sessions, plus they're having these camps before they went they went to England for the World Cup 2017. And since then, I think it's been a constant progress. So I think, as I said, it was very important for BCCI to understand the dynamics of women cricket and try and work according to that. So that is one reason why the progress has been gradual, and it continues to grow. Yes, 2020, the World Cup, T20 World Cup was excellent for India, because we reached the finals. We played in front of a massive crowd at the MCG. Australia did manage to win that encounter. But having said that, the way we played in the World Cup T20 was so refreshing to watch. So I think, yes, it is growing, Rika, and not only in white ball cricket, but I think also in test cricket.
Sharda, thank you very much for joining me to talk about the performance of the Indian women down under. Put things in perspective for my listeners. Where does this draw really rank in women's cricket?
Hi, Rika. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. This is huge, particularly because we don't play as the Indian women's team. I'm saying we. The Indian women's team doesn't play too much test cricket, and what has been, and Australia is the number one team in the world. Australia have been dominant. They have played more what we call days cricket than the Indian women do. Even in our domestic cricket, we don't seem to have a days competition. I could be wrong, but as far as I know, that it's just T20 and 50 overs. And so to see, and test cricket is a game of which requires that you put out all your skills on display for a lengthy period of time. It's under sustained pressure. And the fact that the Indian women were able to draw this was great, because they always were playing ahead of the game the whole time. They had taken complete control of the match for pretty much the whole game.
Sharda, would it be fair to say that the way they have performed now and over the past couple of years, they are the second best team in the world after Australia?
You could argue that. I mean, they went to England and drew a match and drew a match by batting out a couple of sessions. It was not,
Right.
was just, there was no time left and therefore they just hang around. And now they've done the same in Australia. So, you can say that, listen, why don't these three countries get together and play like a World Test Championship kind of three-way contest and see what happens at the end of it. And go to a neutral venue and play and see what happens. So, it is very much, if you say, yeah, they're the second best team, England will say, no, it's us. And you say, okay, fine, let's play. New Zealand will say, no, we're there as well. Maybe the Indians should go and play a test match in New Zealand. You can definitely say they're amongst the top teams, if not in the top two.
This was the year when the Indian women's cricket team played 2 test matches. One was against England in Bristol and the second was in Australia against Australia. Here's Captain Mithali Raj talking about her experience of playing England in England.
Well, see, in England, at one point we were almost, we were in a verge of losing, and from there on, the lower order actually put on a great partnership there. Sneha Rana, Tanya Bhatia, Deepti Sharma have played well in England. Coming to the Australian test match, I think Smriti has played well. 100 is fabulous. And the way our seamers have bowled well, especially in this test, I think all 3 seamers, Julan, of course, is an experienced seamer, but she's been in very good rhythm. Along with her, the 2 young seamers have really stood up in this test match.
I was doing an interview for the BBC and they asked me that India and Australia played 16 years ago in a test match and it has taken them 16 years to play another match. What happened? Can I ask you that question?
Yeah, well, you see, ICC also has realized that it is time for other test-playing nations. When I say test-playing nations, which means the men test-playing nations, they need to come forward. Because right now, it's only England and Australia who would play test matches as a bilateral agreement. India, the last test match we played was in 2016. And the issue which ICC faces right now is the other nations, be it New Zealand or South Africa or even Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, they don't play test cricket because they have yet to come to that stage of becoming a professional. So many of these cricketers are still amateurs. And whenever I've had interaction with the foreign board or I was a member of the Women ICC cricket committee, we have had numerous discussions on this. And they said that very few professional cricketers play in these nations. That is why for them to get together and embark on a long tour is not so easy. So there is work to be done on that front also. But I'm happy at least things have started. At least India has got back to play test cricket. And I'm sure ICC is trying its level best to maybe get New Zealand, maybe get South Africa involved in this system. Because, I really enjoy this multi-format concept. So now whenever India travels to any other country, that needs to be encouraged. And maybe get one test match also in the series. So you can play T20 one day as well as test cricket.
In the current times, the fixtures, there are so many series and the matches, the fixtures have been very flexible and so are the players because we understand in what scenario that we are playing the series. In fact, we should be thankful to BCCI and Cricket Australia for getting us the series for the players before the World Cup. And yes, the fixtures changed. It has a lot to do with the quarantine time that we've spent, and yet we get to play all 3 formats. So I think these things do happen, and as players, we are also flexible to sort of tune our mindset. Yes, it would have been nice if we had a couple of days more with the pink ball, but again, just having one session and the way the girls have responded at the ground, I think with so many players playing different formats, leagues, I think they understand how quickly they can change the mindset and fit into the format.
That was Captain Mithali Raj talking about what helped the girls easily transition from the ODIs to the test format, particularly play this test under the lights. One of the things that I have noticed gets BCCI moving is the kind of fandom around the team, the kind of sponsors they attract, the way they are spoken. I think right now Indian cricket team has a lot more respect.
Since when has the BCCI cared about fans? Let's start with that, in terms of... So if you're not going to pay attention to fandom, to this enormous sort of surge of interest and everything that's happening around the women's team, what are you going to pay attention to? I think the sponsors that they reach out to, or the sponsors that reach out to them, are happy for the men to be getting all the goodies in that sense. But energy has to come from within the BCCI of doing something for the women's team, because it's just the most it's just literally kindergarten stuff that they need to do at this point to just lift the women's team fitness, their fielding, all the other various sort of little skills that are there to make them world class. I remember when the South Africans came on tour a couple of months ago, I think, and they played a lot of one-dayers, and they played a lot of the South African women. They played a lot of one-dayers and they played a lot of T20s. Everyone said, this has shown us the poor standard of the women's game. No, it hasn't. It's not shown. It's shown you that you have done, that the rest of the world has moved on and you haven't. That's what it showed you. That's what it's there. Why did we lose matches to the South Africans and by large margins, and we lost to Australia until we broke their long string of victories? Because of it's the small stuff. This is the kind of stuff that used to be talked about the Indian men's team in the 1990s, in the mid 90s, that you had Tendulkar, but you couldn't, because you didn't do the little stuff well. Your fielding wasn't absolutely top of the line. Your running between wickets wasn't absolutely top of the line. It's the same thing.
Shraddha spoke about the fielding and the fitness standards for the women's team. Sabha, how long would it take for our Indian women's team to have as big a support group as the Indian men have?
Is that required at this stage, Rika? I think we have.
Is it not?
No, I think we have enough support staff. So we have a head coach, we have a batting coach, we have one or two fielding coaches, we have a video analyst, and we have masseurs, and we have physios. So I think we have about 10 or 12 support staff. So whenever there is a need, I'm sure BCCI will be more than happy to assist. And I think we have seen this for the past 2-3 years. So it all depends on the management. If there is a request from the team management that they need an extra support staff, I'm sure BCCI will look into it. I remember last year we had a bowling coach also. And we had a spin bowling coach, Hirwani was involved. We had a pace bowling coach, so we had Subrata Banerjee involved. W.V. Raman till at that point of time was the head coach. And right now it is Ramesh Pawar, who's done a very good job for the Indian side. Then you have S.S. Das, the batting coach. And all these are former internationals with great credibility and proper coaching certification.
It's women's cricket has grown, and what I see now by talking to various commentators and talking to cricketers across various other countries is that the kind of respect that Indian women cricketers have. Do you think that respect that we see is far more outside of India than in India? The reason I'm saying is that this time around 7 girls have been picked up for the Big Bash League.
Yes, I would say that we see the same thing here in India now, Rika. And I think, one should also sit back and see that women cricket or any women's sport in India is a reflection of the society we live in. So if we start to respect and empower women in our society, it will be reflected in the performance of the athletes and the way we look at them. So I think I see that happening now in India, which is remarkable. And when you talk about the Women Big Bash League in Australia, the number of players have gone up is because of the impact Indian cricketers are making at the international level. So the past 2-3 years, we have hosted number of foreign teams have come to India. We have done well against them. We have traveled outside. We have performed quite well there. India A team last year, I think before the World Cup, toured Australia. Some of the players in that India A side managed to get selected for the national team. The foreign nations and the administrators and the coaches and the players, they have realized the kind of talent India has. And some of them have come and played in the women IPL 3 or 4 matches here. So they understand the dynamics of women cricket and the way it is growing. So a lot of work still to be done, but I think it is heartening the kind of pace which we have seen the growth of women cricket in India.
One of the significant shifts in women's cricket today is the kind of respect this bunch of girls get from the opposition. The young girls are respected, and so are the senior citizens like Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami, who have created a conducive ecosystem for the younger bunch, also help them develop mental fortitude.
I think what Mithali and Julan have done is show the younger generation consistency and longevity of their excellence, And what they are able to do, Mithali and Julan, is that look what happened even in Australia. The Indian team batted first. I think Australia won the toss and put them into bat. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they batted first. The moment the Australians came out to bat, the Australians bowlers that are well trained, much better, fitter, supported handsomely by their board and so on and so forth. They couldn't make enough breakthroughs into the Indian opening partnership. Look at what happened when the Indians came to bowl. Julan and Pooja Vastrakar were able to take wickets, make breakthroughs. Everyone will tell you, that happened because it was under lights and everything. But too bad. I mean, the Australians put the Indians into bat. They could have batted first. It's that's not. So it's that kind which shows you that you are still able to stay. Compete at a level that is the one that is required of you in all formats of the game. And I think that consistency and longevity, given the fact that Julan and Mithali have been through possibly the empty years, the barren years of women's cricket, from say 2006 onwards when the BCCI took over till about 2014, when 13 or 14, when they started getting their contracts, and that's another saga. So I think they have sort of literally survived this through the barren age because of their love for the sport, because of the fact that, they still wanted to play. And I think that is what is the most and across formats as well. And that is what is the most admirable thing, is that it's so easy for them to have been bitter and given up. Mm-hmm. And to see their example, I think, is what the younger generation says, look, we'll have more opportunities, hopefully. And that's the standard that we need to be.
Shraddha, while we talk about their performances and the administrators, their lackadaisical attitude towards women's cricket, we also have to talk about sweet stories that are emerging out of, women's cricket. Particularly, I'm just taken in by the sisterhood between the two openers.
I think it's lovely to watch them, together. Smriti Mandana seems to be a very open and a friendly and a generous person who sort of reaches out to everybody and is able to interact and chat and talk. And it's great with Shefali, because Shefali is much sort of she's younger, so there's just more raw, fresh energy that's there about her. And then you've got this older player that's with them, and their partnership is also lovely because they're such fun to watch together. Smriti is just a beautiful batter. She's left-handed, so it's just magic. And Shefali is sort of everyone says Sehwag, but she's her own person in that sense. So you hear stories about them, and they're talking and they're chatting and they're joking in their songs, and I think they'll have a lot of fun playing in Big Bash, and being part of it. And we've also seen Jemima Rodriguez and Smriti do a lot of shows on online on YouTube and so on. And it's great that you get this, that these messages are sent out of the fact that there is this sisterhood, because normally the whole story is that women they hate each other and they gossip and they're each other's biggest enemy, and that's all rubbish, because you're seeing an absolutely different example of the women's cricket team, and I can say the women's hockey team as well. And so it's just lovely that they're able to stick together in all this. I mean, I'm sure they have a lot of war stories to tell, but they won't tell it now. We'll find out later when they can. But I'm sure they've had a lot of fun being together, despite they're in COVID, they're in lockdown, they're in bubbles, and playing and succeeding and doing well. And the more you succeed, the better you do, the more you win, the more this sort of camaraderie, friendship, sisterhood just gets stronger and stronger.
Shraddha, I'm just loving these stories of sisterhood, and let's listen into Smriti.
We both actually just enjoy batting with each other, be it any format. And I think we discuss the same thing, that just go out there and enjoy, and we just try and back each other. Like if she is having some problem with something, I will go up to her and tell something. And if I am if I chased one ball outside, she came to me, she's like, Didi bahut bahar ka hai, mat khelo. He said that don't play, it's too outside, so don't chase that ball. So it's we have a good conversation, and I think that kind of helps, and maybe it's helping us in the test format, that we are telling each other where our off stuff is and if we are chasing the ball.
Playing 3 formats parallelly means that this bunch of girls have developed a great deal of game awareness. They are able to entertain and add value to all 3 formats of the game. And that brings us to the key question. One final question. Now that we know that women's cricket is also a marketable proposition, how far are we from seeing a full-fledged women's IPL? How far do you reckon?
You need to speak to BCCI officials, Rekha, about this, isn't it? We have had pretty successful exhibition games, or 3 or 4 matches over the past 2 seasons. I think 2 years back or 3 years back, if you recall, we had only 2 teams. Now, last season or even before that, we had 3 teams. So there is some improvement on that front. But I think many people forget that men's IPL is a huge success because of a very strong and a dynamic domestic structure. And I think there is still some work to be done for women cricket. For instance, in women cricket, we don't have under 16 tournament at this stage. So right now, even for domestic cricket in India, an under 19 cricketer plays under 23, even the seniors. So the number of players you expect from the junior level to come through the system, that has yet to take place. And there is work happening on that front also. So I think first we need to work more on having a very strong dynamic, a very strong and a very professional domestic structure, maybe increase more number of matches, add under 16 interstate tournaments, and then maybe 2-3 years down the line, one can always look at organizing a women IPL on a full-fledged scale.
And that will perhaps be the real turning point for women's cricket in India. A full-fledged IPL, like the men, will throw up a lot more talent and help India become a dominant force. A dream of the greats of Indian cricket like Mithali and Jhulan. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Turning Point podcast. Do mail me with your suggestions on rika@ndtv.com. For now, it's a goodbye.